Happy day, everybody. This is Tanner Invests here, and today it is the IPO day for Figma. That is not what this video is about, but in this video, I will be using only Figma products to show you my presentation later about BMNR and SBET. I'm actually going to break down the math behind what dilution exactly is and how it affects the NAV per share, which ultimately it will affect the price of the stock. And I want to layer that in and show everybody because my last video got over 6,000 views in just a couple days, which I'm super grateful for. Thank you all for watching. But there's still as many great comments, people thanking me for the analysis. There's also some people that had questions. And so I want to answer some of those questions because people are still scared of this big bad word called dilution. And ultimately, guys, dilution is not a bad thing for ETH treasuries. You got to remember that these ETH treasury plays are copying Michael Saylor's playbook to a T as what they've done with Bitcoin. But instead of Bitcoin, they're trying to do the same playbook with Ethereum, just at a faster pace. So dilution is not a bad thing. Dilution is just a way that the treasury can arbitrage the stock price based on its highs and lows, and then based on Ethereum's highs and lows, to issue shares at the right time and buy Ethereum at the right time to have a better NAV per share, which an ETH per share. You're going to notice a lot of these, and I'm going to show you some videos of Joseph Lubin and Tom Lee talking about this ETH per share, like the amount of ETH that they hold per share, per fully diluted share. And so let's go ahead and jump into the screen real quick. By the way, real quick, actually, I'm wearing a hat today because I got some Tom Lee hair going on, guys. That is Tom Lee hair right there. All right, let's get back into the video. So Ethereum this week, we got 4% gain. Really traded flat. I mean, we've gone from 3,700 to 3,800 and back and forth. But the treasuries have continued to trade down a little bit, which is not a bad thing if you're an investor wanting to get in certain scenarios because of that multiple on the MNAV, which I'm going to get more into later, guys. I just want you to know that we're all in this together, and the main thing that matters is this: the price of Ethereum. No matter what, the price of Ethereum is going to dictate the share price ultimately of these treasury plays. If they execute at the level we're trusting them to execute at, which is playing, the dilution game the correct way, diluting at the right times, buying Ethereum, all the time, then we're ultimately going to have higher share price at the end of the day. That's the goal. And just remember too, guys, like as much as they're diluting us and we feel like, oh no, there's more shares out there, that means my value of my share has gone down. Guys, they're buying more Ethereum though. So like with the money they're raising, they're buying more ETH, and they have more skin in the game than we do. They have way more skin in the game. So let's trust their judgment. If you want to invest in these plays, just know it's going to be volatile. Know that they're not scam artists. They're not out there to harm you or make you lose money. Ultimately, their goal is to raise the share price and raise the amount of Ethereum they're holding versus the fully diluted shares. We're going to get into that math here. Also, happy Figma Day. Today is Figma's IPO. I do have a video on Figma as well if you guys are curious on that IPO, and I have invested into that IPO as well. Now let's get back to this. So we talked about in the last video how I decided to buy SharpLink as my ETH treasury play. As you see here, I am currently down 13%. I don't care because the MNAV is still at a good place, and I think over time this is going to go up, so I don't care. I'm not trying to time the bottom. I'm just trying to put some money in when I feel like it's correct time to put it in. Now, guys, I know last video, like 2 days ago, I said I'm picking SBET. Now, the reasons why I picked SBET were these two main reasons. One, the transparency of SBET has been a lot higher than the transparency of BitMine. And then two, they also hired BlackRock's head of digital asset strategy, Joseph Chalem, as the co-CEO, which I think if you're hiring a guy from BlackRock, which you guys know BlackRock owns a lot of the financial world, essentially. If you hire a guy that had 20 years at BlackRock to come over and run your treasury, I think pretty damn good hire. I don't care if they gave him some shares or diluted us even more, because I ultimately want the strategy behind the decision making of what I'm investing in to be the best in the long run. So now, that being said, guys, I did buy some BMNR now, and I'll tell you why. The pipe unlocked, and a lot of people panicked because the price went from about 35, 40 bucks all the way down to 28. had a huge decrease in price this last couple weeks. So you can see kind of here, we're at 40 on July 28th. All of a sudden, we're down to 30. So that's a huge dip, about 30%. The reason why, guys, my first video I talked about PIPE and what that means. It's that initial investment from private companies that are putting in money to give. Basically, Tom Lee needed to raise money. He went to these companies, he got the money. He said, hey, I'll give you a low share price if you give me money now. We'll start this ETH treasury. And it got to a point where, hey, these shares, they were locked until a certain date, which was like, right, I think it was July 30th technically, but they released the PIPE message on the 28th, which is what caused the drop. Now, doesn't matter. I don't care about that. I don't think you guys should care about that. That's how they raised the first initial 250 million in shares, and then they ended up doing a ATM offering, which I talked about as well in previous videos. Whenever this happened, guys. So when the stock raises, let's go to 3-month chart. When the stock raises up to this July 3rd level, the multiple on the MNAV was incredibly high. So what are they going to do? They're going to do a ATM raise. They're going to issue shares at this price. And yeah, if you're buying at that price, you might have got hurt. And that's why you might not love BitMine at this moment. But you guys got to know what you're getting into. You got to know what the multiple on the MNAV is, because they're going to keep doing this. If the stock goes too high and it's above where they project the MNAV to be, they will raise money through ATM offerings, which I talked about in the previous video. I'm going to have that link in the description if you guys want to learn more about that. But today I want to keep this video focused on new things. So let's get into why I bought BitMine, because the number one thing I said was transparency. Check out what happened. So Tom Lee is actually on his YouTube channel for BitMine. BitMine BMNR is the YouTube channel. Definitely give this a subscribe. Tom Lee has come out with a chairman's message, which every single month he'll be, I'll let him say it actually. Just let Tom Lee tell you.
And I want to welcome you to the launch of a monthly video series called The Chairman's Message. The purpose of this Chairman's Message is to keep you abreast of all the updates of BitMine as it builds the world's premier treasury strategy and what we call the alchemy of 5% once we reach 5% share of all Ethereum tokens.
All right, so you hear it there, guys. He is going to be doing a monthly video, which he does this for, Fundstrat for his ETF for granny shots. I think it's great that he's doing this for BMNR too, just telling the world like what's going on. In this video, I highly recommend, it's an 11-minute video. Check it out because he goes through from day one, talks about the PIPE for the initial investment. He talks about the ultimate bull case behind Ethereum. He talks about the government regulations behind the Genius Act. He talks about the bull case and why Ethereum, he believes it's going to go up in price. He also talks about the alchemy of 5%, how their ultimate goal is to get 5% of the total Ethereum within the world, which is fantastic. I mean, that's bullish in itself. And then he also talks about ways they can increase their ETH per share. And so in this video, I'm going to be going over what ETH per share is, the math behind it. So stay tuned for that. He also talks about, I like the end because he actually shows the BMNR net asset value as of July 28th. So this is obviously going to change over time. And then he also talks about how they've grown in value. So what a lot of people don't realize is they did a really good job at managing the PIPE. A lot of SharkBet, in my opinion, did a less great job at managing the PIPE because when they got the initial investment, they had about a 30-day period to gain as much Ethereum as possible to raise that net asset value per share to where the PIPE actually didn't have as much room to go down because they had so much ETH on their balance sheet. It couldn't go under that $19, now it's at $23. So when we saw that crash from 40 to 30, I think that was great because it could have gone from 40 to $5 if they didn't, get any Ethereum at all. If they just had their initial PIPE and didn't do anything at all, it would have crashed a lot further. So the fact that we were at 23 and it was at 40 was the reason why it only stopped at 30. It could have kept going further. So I don't want people to be mad or call, Tom Lee a scam artist. That's not at all true, guys. Now, I want you guys to know that ETH per share is the biggest metric, and you're going to hear this a lot if you're invested into these plays. Tom Lee cares about ETH per share, and so does Joseph Lubin. So Joseph Lubin, in this video here, I want to show you it's only 37 seconds. Let's watch this real quick.
of the same things and many other things using Ether is actually much more powerful because Ether is a productive and yielding asset. So we've been accumulating capital in various ways every single day. We've been instantly turning it into Ether and instantly staking it or restaking it, and we'll take advantage of decentralized finance yielding capabilities. And so we're able to take our Ether and grow it directly. And we believe that we'll be able to accumulate more Ether per fully diluted share much faster than any other Ethereum-based project, or certainly faster than the Bitcoin-based projects.
All right, so he said we're going to accumulate ETH per share faster than any other ETH-based projects, and certainly more than the Bitcoin-based projects. I mean, that's what we want, guys. As investors, we want to have as much ETH per share, and we want the price of ETH to go up. That's ultimately how the share price of Sharplink Gaming and BMNR, BitMine, are going to go up over time. So I got into Figma because it's Figma's IPO today, so I wanted to use some more Figma products, but I did some work inside here. It actually took me a long time, so I'd appreciate if you guys like this video. Leave a comment if you guys enjoyed, or if you have any questions. But I want to get into the math behind the NAV per share. And everything in this video, I'm mostly pulling from the chairman's message that we just looked at from Tom Lee. So in this slide here, it says the BMNR net asset value detail, where it explains the NAV, which we have him pointed an arrow at $23 in NAV rounded. But how did we get to that number? So you can see he pulls the total treasury net asset value by looking at the amount of Ethereum they have, the amount of Bitcoin they have, and the amount of cash they have. And so you can't just look at the numbers of the amount that you're holding. You have to look at the price. So the spot price of Ethereum when they pulled this was at $38.25, and then the Bitcoin price was at 118,000. So you multiply those across, you're now at 2.3 billion roughly in Ethereum, 23 million in Bitcoin, which you guys got to remember, they were like a BitMine. They like mining Bitcoin before they become an ETH treasury. So this is a little more confusing than like Sharplink. Sharplink really just has cash and Ethereum, so it's a little bit easier. But then you have their fully diluted shares, which the fully diluted shares was the thing that BitMine in the past was being a little bit, they weren't being very transparent. They weren't really explaining like, this is the exact amount of fully diluted shares that we have, while Sharplink was. So that's kind of why I initially invested in SBET over BMNR, but I'm happy that Tom Lee is coming out with these chairman messages, because I think moving forward, they're going to show the numbers and just be really transparent with us. Love that. So ultimately, that's how you get that NAV per share. So we can move over here and we can look at, so what does that mean, the NAV per share? So the net asset value is the amount we already looked at of ETH, cash, and in this case, they have a little bit of Bitcoin, but let's just say ETH. The amount of ETH that they have divided by the amount of fully diluted shares that are outstanding. And so Tom Lee issued this in his message, which, like I said, go watch his video, but I'll explain this too. The 5 ways to increase Ethereum per share. So 1, you can issue stock at a premium to the dollar value ETH held per share. So what he's saying is, if BMNR stock really goes high and it's above their MNAV estimate, really, they can do a ATM offering and they can offer shares at a higher price, and essentially they're diluting shareholders at that level. And that's what we saw, guys, back here. They did an ATM offering when this hit $135, and look what happened to the stock, because people freaked out. But really, people weren't understanding what was going on here. They were purchasing something because of hype, and BMNR took advantage of that. Yes, that's smart. Like, that's what we want them to do as investors that actually know what we're doing. Now, 2, you can issue convertible bonds. So you can issue convertible notes, or bonds in this case as well, or warrants to take advantage of volatility of the stock and the underlying volatility of ETH. So what that means is there are convertible notes and bonds. I don't want to get too much into what that is, but it's basically an option where you can collect money today by you're basically being lent money from your shareholders, where they can give you money today, and at a future expiration date, you can dilute your shares then, right? And so 3, they can get income from operations. So in this case, since BitMine might have some operations that they can earn revenue from, they also can use that to invest in the ETH. SBET really won't have that number 3 right there, but it's not going to be much anyway. 4 is a big one. earn staking rewards. So when you have when you have ETH, you can stake ETH to get more ETH. It's a yield. So right now, I think it's like 3.3%. So you can stake your ETH, get a yield back from staking that ETH, and that's a way to get more ETH. And so the more ETH you have, the more you can stake, the more yield you get, just like interest from a bank. The more money they have, the more interest, more money they can get. So number 5, acquiring digital asset treasuries trading at close to a NAV of ETH held. So what this means is, let's say another ETH treasury like BIT Digital, all of a sudden it's trading like at a 1.1 net asset value, or multiple on their net assets value, sorry. Now, that means Tom Lee is saying, hey, I could go buy that business because I know my company right now is trading at maybe a 1.4 and they're trading at a 1.1. I'll just buy up their ETH, gobble it up. Now I have it on my balance sheet, and now it's trading at a higher multiple. So that's certainly a way they could also increase their ETH per share. So I have some scenarios here, guys, because I want to show you the exact math behind how all this works. So in this screenshot here, you can see that they had 600,000 ETH at this spot price, and this is the calculation of 2.3 billion net asset value. So we know the equation is net asset value divided by fully diluted shares. So we're going to take 600,000 multiplied by that spot price to get that 2.3 billion plus their Bitcoin and cash divided by their fully diluted shares. So that gives you this equation. And then I calculate that across to get their NAV per share. And this is exactly matches up with that 22.84. 22.84. Now, this is what Tom Lee's saying is well, first, let's calculate what is the price to NAV, or the multiple on the NAV. So we can take the share price, which I'm going to use this share price, guys, at $32.33. And the reason I want to use this share price is because I bought these shares right after I saw Tom Lee's message from this video, which was like released right on time. So in his video, we have the 22.84 NAV that we just looked at, and my share price. So when I calculated this to purchase BitMine, it was at a 1.42 multiple on their NAV, or you can call that price to NAV ratio. So that is the current, or as of July 28th, the price has gone up a little bit since then, but that is the NAV at which I purchased my shares at. And so now we can make a couple assumptions here, guys, because I want to show you if the price of Ethereum goes up and nothing else changes, how is that going to affect the price of the stock? And so we can see that this probably will never happen. Obviously, their ETH's going to go up. Their diluted or fully diluted shares is going to go up. So this scenario actually will not happen. But I just want to show you if the price of ETH does go up, how will that affect the price today? So what we can do is we can take a new spot price, which I put in $5,000. Let's just say it goes up from 4,000 or 3,800 to 5,000. And so we'll recalculate the NAV per fully diluted shares to get 3 billion in ETH and their cash divided by the same amount of shares. Now we have a higher net asset value per share. And so what would happen to share price if the mNAV stays constant, but the NAV per share increases? So if Ethereum goes up, but they're trading at the same 1.42 NAV that I bought my shares at, how would that affect the price? So let's say 28.84 is their NAV per share times 1.42 mNAV. We're looking at $40.95 per share. So you can see how that's gone up from where I bought at like $32.33. So that's how the price will go up ultimately, guys, is the price of ETH. Now, Tom Lee's bullish in saying that he thinks the multiple on the mNAV will go up even higher than 1.42. Like in his mind, he thinks it will be higher than potentially MicroStrategy, because MicroStrategy, guys, remember, I have a thing here. They're trading at a 1.73 mNAV. Earlier today, this was at a 1.7. And so this is calculated in real time. I love the strategies. I love their transparency here. I hope that BitMine or SBET will do this as well in the future and have their own page that shows their real-time data. But let's just say, what happens if the multiple on the mNAV matches MicroStrategy's mNAV? And everything else stays the same, but the price of ETH went up to $5,000. So now we take the NAV per share and we multiply it by the mNAV. So we have that $28.84 NAV per share by the 1.7 mNAV instead of that 1.42. Now we're looking at a $49 stock price. So instead of a $40 just the ratio of the multiple on their MNAV going up created a higher price as well. So now, guys, I have a third scenario. Now, these scenarios, by the way, are based off my last video where there was, it was actually a report that SBET came out with called the Trustware Report, or actually Consensus came out, which is Joseph Lubin's company, came out with a Trustware report saying that, you know, they think that their projections based off simulated returns, they think by 2025, the stock price or the ETH price will go up to about $5,000 on average. And then that's the mean return, the base case. And then the 2028 is going to be a base case of 15,000. So these are based on their projections. Now, let's use 15,000 as a spot price, but keep everything the same. Remember, things won't stay the same. The share price will go up. The ETH price will change. So let's look at this, though. Now, let's say that there's a price of 15,000. You multiply that by 600,000. Now you have 9 billion in ETH plus their cash and their Bitcoin that they have divided by the same amount of shares. Now we have a NAV per share of 79.86. That's pretty freaking high. So what would happen to share price if MNAV stays consistent, but NAV per share increases to 79.86? Now we have NAV per share multiplied by MNAV again, but you have 79.86 times 1.42. So this is the same MNAV as we're trading that I bought my shares at. You'd be looking at $113.48. So overnight, if we just like went to bed, woke up, all of a sudden ETH went through to the moon, won't happen. But if it did, this is where the stock price should trade based on that multiple, guys. So $113.40. Now, if we project a higher MNAV in the future at 1.7, similar to MicroStrategy, which I do have a screenshot here showing earlier it was at a 1.7 on Strategy's website. But let's look here. Now you're trading the NAV per share at this assumed price of 79.86, and we have $1 or 1.7 at the MNAV. You're looking at now a $135.76 stock price of BMNR. This is looking, you know, at BMNR specifically, of course, because these are based off their numbers. So that's the bull case, guys. Like if ETH goes up, if we have more ETH per share, that's how it will eventually affect the stock price. Now, if ETH goes down, the stock price is going to go down because we're trading at a multiple of the ETH per share. Like, I hope you guys understand this. So dilution is not a bad thing. They're going to dilute. They're going to do convertible notes. They're going to do ATM offerings. And ultimately, that's going to increase this denominator. And then but with that money that they raise from increasing the shares, they're going to buy more ETH, which would then increase the numerator. And as long as the numerator is higher than the growth of the numerator is higher than the growth of the denominator, guys, we will be fine and the stock price will accumulate over time. Now, I want to remind, this is not financial advice. If you're not into volatility, if you don't believe in the ETH bull case, if you think, you know, Tom Lee's a scam artist for some whatever reason, then don't invest into this stuff, guys. Like, just don't touch it. There's other stuff you can go buy Google or Amazon or Netflix, or you just saw, you know, Microsoft's huge earnings. Like, go put your money there. But I put a little bit of my portfolio. You can see I only have 2.6% of my portfolio in Ether itself. I only have less than a percentage in my in Sharplink Gaming, and then I have less than half a percentage in BMNR. I'm not throwing all my money in here. When you do the math, I'm like still under like 3.5% of my portfolio combined into ETH as a whole, guys. So that's all for today. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm really excited. I am very bullish on the overall ETH bull case, and I hope you guys might be too. But if you're not, don't worry about it. Like, just don't invest in it, guys. But other than that, I hope any Figma shareholders, hope you guys get your shares today potentially. I do have some money. I did ask for about 100 shares, so we'll see what happens there. But other than that, I appreciate you watching. See you guys.